Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. And tonight's Raw was from the Scotia Bank Arena in Toronto. Of course, WWE is out there for SummerSlam weekend. We had SummerSlam last night. We had NXT take over Toronto on Saturday. We had Raw tonight. And tomorrow they're going to end SummerSlam weekend with SmackDown. But this Raw was the SummerSlam Fallout. And I gotta say, tonight's Raw, to me, in my opinion, I thought it was just a very meh show, in my opinion. Just a lot of stuff was meh. Some, stuff I did not care for. Of course, we had the Jobber Ninja Turtle 24/7 Championship and the whole fucking circus of jobbers coming out, trying to get our truth. So, but let's get started with the Raw review. So, Raw opened tonight with Seth Rollins, the two-time Universal Champion. Seth Rollins came out. He got on the mic. He ended up saying that he's got to be honest because he doesn't know any other way. He goes on to say last night he didn't know that he had what it takes to beat Brock Lesnar. Seth says the last few weeks have been the toughest stretch of his entire career. And he came to the ring at less than 100%. And he stared right in Lesnar's eyes. He says, in this ring, Brock is everything he touted to be, and more. And, of course, the crowd was chanting, Beast Slayer to Seth. So Seth was saying that, when he ran out of gas, something happened. He says the crowd came alive. And at that moment, the crowd took him to a place he's never been in his entire career. He says they took him to a place that he couldn't go on his own, to a place that only they can go together. Seth goes on to say in that moment, he knew he had what it took to slay the beast. He says, and he remembered that he's Seth frickin' Rollins. And he says that's why he's standing here as the Universal Champion. So then we had the OC come out, Styles, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows. They make their way down to the ring. They get in. And Styles gets on the mic. He ends up telling Seth that, believe it or not, the OC would like to be the first to congratulate him. So the both of them, applause Seth. And Styles ends up telling Seth that, here's where it gets tricky. He doesn't have to worry about Brock Lesnar anymore. So Styles says Seth does have to worry about the man. He says he does have to worry about the man standing in front of him. So Styles ends up telling Seth that he wants a match tonight. So Seth says he's always had a ton of respect for Styles, but not anymore. He goes on to say it doesn't matter how beat up he is, he'll teach Styles a lesson in respect. So Seth ends up accepting the challenge. So we had AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins later on in the night, which was the main event. So Styles ends up offering a hand, and he ends up realizing that that Gallows and Anderson, must be making Seth nervous. And he asks them to leave the ring. Styles ends up asking Gallows and Anderson to leave the ring. So Styles ends up extending his hand out again. Seth ends up shaking Styles' hand, and we see Styles tells Gallows and Anderson that Seth is scared, and that, and he better be. And Seth, gives, the come and get some then, thing with his hands, that hand gesture that Seth did. So, and that's how the segment ended. So, pretty decent opening to Raw with Seth Rollins coming out there. Styles putting out a challenge to face Seth Rollins. Rollins ends up accepting it. So, pretty decent. Then we had the Street Profits. They were doing their hype, and their hype for the show. Sami Zayn ends up coming in, gives some advice. Sami says he gets it. The Street Profits are new. It's exciting, and they should enjoy it while it lasts. He says because the longer the Street Profits are here, the more it sucks, their soul out. He goes on to say Becky Lynch used to be real straight fire, but she feels now so manufactured. And Angelo Dawkins ends up asking, if that goes for, let's say, Samoa Joe. So we see the camera ends up panning and shows Joe standing behind Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn ends up starting to make fun of Joe and running Joe down. So Joe gets Sami's attention. Sami ends up, begging, off, but we saw Joe wasn't having it. And Joe says, since Sami is such a big softy, he'll give him a chance to get it off his chest in the ring. He says maybe he'll show that he's something more than Kevin Owens' water boy. So that was what happened backstage. And then when Raw came back from the commercial, we had the match. Samoa Joe versus Sami Zayn, which ended in about maybe 4 or 5 minutes. Samoa Joe ended up winning the match. Coquina clutch on Sami Zayn. Sami ended up, tapping. So Samoa Joe ended up winning. And then we had post-match. Joe gets on the mic. He says that while he might forgive Roman Reigns for the finger pointing that was done, on who attacked Roman, he says that forgiveness is extended to none of us who have helped propagate the lie that he was capable of such, atrocities. And he says because of that, he blames the fans and says he'll never forgive any of us. So the crowd started booing him. And that was that. Well, all in all, Samoa Joe versus Sami Zayn, it was meh, in my opinion. Joe just beat Sami Zayn in 4 or 5 minutes. I'd say 5 minutes tops. So. Then we had the next match. Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz. And The Miz ended up making his way down to the ring. Dolph Ziggler ended up coming out. He wasn't in his ring attire, in ring gear. He was in his clothes, his regular street clothes. He was limping a little bit. Gets in the ring. Dolph ended up getting on the mic. Goldberg chant started ringing out from the crowd. And Dolph says he hopes Miz is happy. He ends up calling him a coward, saying everyone knows he he didn't have a chance against a chance at SummerSlam. And so he subbed Goldberg in as part of his master plan. He says, but he forgot. He says, Dolph got speared so many times yesterday that, he cannot medically compete. Dolph was like, because I got speared so many times by Goldberg yesterday, I can't compete tonight. So he says Miz's plan ended up going out the window, and that Miz screwed Miz. So what we saw was, possibly not a match happening between the both of them. Dolph ends up going to leave. Miz ends up turning around, and before Dolph gets out of the ring, he is already healed, and he attacks the Miz from behind. So he starts punching the Miz down the corner. The referee ends up backing Dolph off, and we have the match. The Miz versus Dolph Ziggler, which was an okay match. Wasn't perfect or great by any means, though. But it was back and forth between them. The Miz ended up getting the win. Figure 4 on Dolph Ziggler. And Dolph ended up tapping out. So the Miz ended up winning. Post-match, just like last night at SummerSlam, when Goldberg defeated Dolph, Dolph ends up getting back on the mic. He ends up taunting the Miz about being a coward. And he ends up telling him that Maurice, Miz's wife, Maurice, is a better wrestler. And he says, he calls it a flesh wound. So Miz ended up coming back into the ring, and he ended up delivering the skull-crushing finale to Dolph. So, Dolph, once again, run his mouth, after the match. Like an idiot. So, all in all, Miz vs. Dolph Ziggler, okay match. Wasn't great or perfect by any means. Then we had Charlie Caruso. She was interviewing Becky Lynch backstage. Becky ends up taking the mic, and she says that she didn't come here to celebrate and respect Natalya. But she says a long time ago, she says she's coming for everybody that did her wrong. And she will not rest until everybody's been dealt with. She says it's cat and mouse. And your smart play is to get her before she can get you. So that was the interview with Becky Lynch. And then we get to Elias. Poor Elias was in the ring, singing us a song. He ends up talking about how he thinks he's figured it out. And he thinks he's figured out this pattern of interruption. He's like, so why not get that out of the way right now? Elias asks for whoever's going to interrupt to do so now. So he ends up starting to count down. So he plays his guitar, launches into a number, and then Ricochet ends up coming out. Ricochet comes out, he gets on the mic. He ends up saying to Elias that he hates to break it to him, but people don't come out and interrupt because it's the cool thing to do. Honestly, it's because Elias sucks. Applaud that. And he says, the Drifter says that's clever. Elias says, that's clever. But a guy that comes out here, dressed up like a comic book character, isn't going to tell him what's cool. So he ends up wanting a match with Ricochet. Elias ends up calling out a referee, says so he can embarrass Ricochet. So we got the match. Ricochet versus Elias. And match itself, it was decent. Back and forth between Ricochet and Elias. I liked Ricochet here. And Ricochet ended up getting the win. Ended up defeating Elias. But all in all, it's a decent match. The end had Ricochet doing a sunset flip onto Elias. So that's how he got the win. But all in all, decent match. And then we got a 2 out of 3 falls match with Andrade, Cien, Almas, and Rey Mysterio. So this it's not the first time that we saw these guys go at it. Every time that Andrade and Mysterio are in the ring, they're very good in the ring. The both of them when they go at it. So, to me, I think this was one of their weakest matches in their collection of matches, in my opinion. So, it was the first fall went to Andrade because he got help from Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega ended up holding on to Andrade's legs on the middle rope. So Andrade got the win with the help from Zelina Vega. So Andrade got the first fall. Then they rung the bell again. And the match, to me, the match was back and forth with this the second to last fall here, which unfortunately Andrade ended up winning. Andrade ended up winning the match. Hammerlock DDT on Mysterio. So Andrade wins the 2 out of 3 falls match. All in all, to me, it was one of their weakest matches, in my opinion. Then we move on to Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold was on Skype. They didn't do via satellite because, it's 2019. We got to get, new technology for WWE to do besides have, a via satellite thing that they do. So we got to rely on Skype now. So Stone Cold was on Skype. Michael Cole was talking with him about, Seth Rollins' performance last night at SummerSlam on him winning the Universal Championship. Stone Cold ended up putting Seth Rollins' performance last night over. And he ended up saying that it told him who Seth frickin' Rollins is and how committed Seth is to being, the best wrestler in the world. Austin says Seth is too humble to say it, but he thinks he found a piece of himself on Sunday. And then we had, ad, which promoted Austin's new show called Straight Up Steve Austin, which aired after Raw at 11 o'clock. And I actually did watch it. And this is why I'm doing this review late. It's actually already midnight as I'm recording this review. But I thought Straight Up Steve Austin, the show, I thought it was a pretty fun show for the first episode. It had Rob Riggle on it. Who I like Rob Riggle, very funny comedian, very funny actor. I enjoyed him in stuff. Of course, he was in the Jump Street films. And, Straight Up Steve Austin was a fun show. The only reason why they got Austin on tonight was to promote the show. That's all it really was. So he just put over Seth Rollins' win last night, and pretty much to promote, like I said, his show Straight Up Steve Austin. That was the only reason why they brought Austin on tonight. So I mean, it was good to see. It was good to see Austin, even though we saw him, a few weeks ago at Raw Reunion. So I mean, and the crowd still popped for him. Loud pop for Austin when he was shown on, on the Skype. Then we saw Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio was walking backstage, and he gets interviewed. He says he has a hard time collecting himself, and he admits he doesn't know where his career is going, and that he has a family to support. So then he just, walked off. Little interview with Mysterio. Then we had Montez Ford. He ends up telling Rey to keep his head up. And Angelo Dawkins, of course, sleeping. He was like that. So Angelo Dawkins was sleeping. Montez ends up waking him up to resume their role as, the hype men for Monday Night Raw. And pretty much that was basically it. So I guess Angelo Dawkins was bored by tonight's Raw so far, of him watching it backstage. So then we had Drew McIntyre. He was being interviewed backstage. He says his rivalry with Cedric Alexandra ends tonight. He says everything he's done is part of the fairy tale he's concocted in his head. He says he thinks it ends with a big victory in Toronto, but it's not. He says what's going to happen is he's going to cave his skull in and end the fairy tale. So McIntyre made his way for, his entrance, going into the ring. So we had the match, Drew McIntyre versus Cedric Alexandra. And to be honest, this was a good match. This was a good match between the both of them. The match started out very slow, in my opinion. And then it picked up later on in the match. And it just made for a very entertaining match. We saw, Alexandra, did a Drew McIntyre ended up doing a crucifix powerbomb into the top turnbuckle to Cedric, and then towards the end of the match, Cedric ends up doing a Spanish fly, which looked awesome. End up pinning McIntyre. McIntyre ended up kicking out of that. McIntyre was trying to go for the Alabama Slam, and he got reversed. And then we saw Cedric trying to counter, and McIntyre just came out of nowhere with the Claymore kick, and Cedric Alexandra really sold that Claymore kick. It made everyone in the crowd, stand up. It made everybody get out of their seats. That's how crazy Cedric sold the Claymore kick. And then after that, McIntyre went for the pin. McIntyre ends up winning the match. But overall, very good match from the both of them. I just couldn't believe how Cedric sold that Claymore kick. It was really, really awesome. And like I said, it got the crowd out of their seats. But good match from the both of them. It was probably the best match of the night, in my opinion. Then after that, we went backstage. We saw the OC. They were talking. Gallows and Anderson end up telling Styles, about not being able to beat Brock Lesnar. But he points out that he only had one chance, and that he's going to beat Seth Rollins tonight. So that was a little short backstage thing that happened with the OC. Then we went to a match that I did not give a shit about. I don't think anybody gave a shit about this match. Robbery versus No Way Jose. What can I say? Roode ended up getting the win. Glorious DDT on No Way Jose. There you go. Moving on. Nobody gave a shit about this match. I did not give a shit. So then we had Paul Heyman. He was being interviewed backstage. He was mocking the idea that history was made at SummerSlam. He was like, history made at SummerSlam. History made at SummerSlam. He was like that. He was mimicking that. And he says, earlier today, WWE declared that Brock Lesnar gets no more rematches for the Universal Championship. Good. Because, what is there else for Brock Lesnar to do to get back the Universal Championship? He's done it. He's done it all. He says, how is he supposed to explain this? He spurs through a few false starts, and then he heads back into Lesnar's dressing room. So Lesnar's time has been up with no more rematches for the Universal Championship. But what this means is possibly now Brock Lesnar is going to go for the WWE Championship. He's going to face Kofi. He's possibly going to win the WWE Championship from Kofi. And Brock Lesnar is going to take it into October for SmackDown on Fox. I bet that's what WWE is basically going to do. And I can see that happening. Because, Fox Sports, SmackDown, from what I've heard, they want Ronda to be on SmackDown. Fox wants Ronda to be on SmackDown. I guess they want Brock Lesnar to be on SmackDown because of Fox Sports. So, but that's what I can see happening. I can see Brock Lesnar facing Kofi for the WWE Championship. Brock Lesnar wins it, takes it into October when SmackDown debuts on Fox. I can see that happening. Oh. Then we had was the Lucha House Party versus the Revival. Was Gran Metalik and Lince Dorado from Lucha House Party. Which, if this match went on, I would not give a shit. But the Revival, I have to say, would have possibly won. But during the match, R-Truth and Carmella come running down the ramp. And, of course, the Jobbers, because, Jobber Ninja Turtle 24/7 Championship has to be featured. And, the whole parade, the whole circus of Jobbers came running out. So we had, the bell rang. Match ended in a no contest between Lucha House Party and the Revival. Chaos ensued. It was a circus. We had the Revival end up winning the 24/7 Championship. Pinned R-Truth. And I was like, what? This was retarded. So Kalisto ends up coming in, ends up, clearing the ring. Salida del Sol, almost on, I think Scott Dawson. So Carmella ends up dragging R-Truth, into the ring. R-Truth ends up pinning, I think it was Scott Dawson. And R-Truth wins back the 24/7 Championship. Fucking retarded. R-Truth is now a 12-time 24/7 champion. So R-Truth and Carmella end up running away. The circus of jobbers ends up running, trying to catch Truth in the back. And we see Drake Maverick also there. He's limping. Starts making his way up the ramp to the back. So Truth and Carmella, they end up sneaking out through the side of the stage. And we follow them to the back. So we see R-Truth ends up celebrating being, the Jobber Ninja Turtle 24/7 champion more times than Ric Flair and John Cena combined, which he isn't. He's not, more champions. He's not champion more times than Ric Flair and John Cena. And then we see Elias ends up coming from behind. Of course, poor Elias. Elias ends up rolling up R-Truth. And there we go. Elias is the 24/7 champion. Poor Elias. And I didn't give a shit. So this whole Jobber Ninja Turtle 24/7 title shit, it's a fucking circus. It's a fucking mess, of course. I always say, keep the 24/7 title on social media. Keep it on YouTube. Keep it on Facebook or Twitter. Get it off fucking TV. Which I know WWE, they're still going to keep doing it. They're still going to feature this shitty title on fucking TV. It's a fucking mess. I swear, this belt needs to be fucking retired. It does. It's nothing but a fucking circus. You have all these stars, these jobbers, running out. It's a fucking circus. There's nothing more I can say about this title that I've already said when it debuted. Gotta keep this fucking title off TV. Keep it on social media. So then we had Talia. She made her entrance. She was in regular clothes. Her arm was in a sling. And she got on the mic. She says, last night, she tapped out. She ended up saying Becky Lynch out-wrestled her and was the better woman. She went on to say that she has a dislocated elbow and she's getting a MRI tomorrow. She says she guesses this is the part where she's supposed to take everything back. She says she meant every word she said. She says she doesn't know when and where, but they're going to do it again. She ended up saying that, she wants to share something special. Natty ended up saying this morning when she woke up, she remembered a dream where her dad spoke to her and congratulated her, telling her how proud he was. And shockingly, today, well, it's Tuesday now when, it's Tuesday now when I'm still recording this review, but yesterday would have been a year since Jim the Anvil Neidhart passed away. So, she ends up saying that, that it's been a year since her father passed away. And then she gets interrupted. None other than a returning Sasha Banks. Yes, Sasha ended up returning tonight. And she got a pop from the crowd. Everybody was happy to see her. She basically walked out of WWE for a little bit. She hasn't been seen since WrestleMania. Sorry about that, but I was saying, Sasha hasn't been seen since WrestleMania. And she ends up getting in the ring. She ends up hugging Natty. Sasha ends up sharing a moment with Natty. and she ends up slapping Natty, and Sasha ends up ditching the purple wig that she was wearing, and she reveals that she has blue hair now. She has blue hair underneath, and she beats down on Natty, throwing her into the turnbuckles. This is NXT Sasha here, the heel that everybody loved to hate when she was down in NXT. And, this is the Sasha that everybody wanted. And I'm pretty sure the main reason why Sasha took this long break after WrestleMania from, walking out of WWE, I guess because she possibly discussed that, when she returns, she probably wanted to go heel. Probably she wanted this for a while, and, we never got it. So, I guess, with her talking, to WWE, I guess she finally got her way, and, I guess they made her go heel. And, the crowd was going nuts for this. So Sasha was beating on Natty. She threw her arm into the turnbuckles. She ends up cornering knees, dumping Natty to the floor. She ends up shoving Natty to the floor. And we saw Sasha ends up smashing Natty's arm into the steel steps a few times. She did it quite a few times. She puts her in the ring. She ends up retrieving a chair, and she ends up stomping away. And before she can go grab the chair, Becky Lynch's music hits. Becky Lynch ends up coming out. She ends up making the save. She and Sasha have a brawl, and Becky on social media, there's a video that surfaced saying, "Oh, you quit with Becky saying, "Oh, you quit WWE. I could fight you anywhere, anytime." I think it was, but I did see the video, so I guess this is what Becky wanted to do. So she and Sasha brawl, and Banks ends up hitting a right to Becky. She rams Becky into the barricade. Sasha ends up grabbing the chair, ends up hitting Becky in the back with it. So she was hitting constantly Becky again and again with chair shots to her back. Referees come down, try and back off Sasha. Sasha ends up throwing the chair down, and she ends up going over to ask Becky where her balls are. And Sasha ends up, striking. She ends up keeping striking to Becky. And she ended up tossing Becky into the steel steps again. And Sasha ended up leaving. That's how it ended when Raw went to the commercial. But yeah, so Sasha has returned, and the crowd went nuts. The crowd was so happy to see her back. So I guess Sasha got what she wanted. I guess she constantly asked for WWE to make her a heel before she wanted to return. So this is like I said, the NXT version of Sasha. The way how we saw her in NXT, this is what we are getting to see on the main roster with Sasha now. This in NXT, this heel Sasha in NXT, a lot of people, just loved to hate her down there. I guess this is what is going to happen on the main roster with her. So we'll just have to wait and see what WWE does with Sasha now in this heel persona that she has. And then we had the War Raiders versus some local jobbers, which this was my bathroom break. I did not see this match. I went to the bathroom. So all I know is the War Raiders ended up winning Viking Experience. There you go. Like I said, went to the bathroom during this match. I did not give a shit whatsoever. By when I saw the War Raiders music hit, I left, went to the bathroom. Did not care. So then we had Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. They were being interviewed. Alexa says they're fighting champions. And Nikki Cross ends up saying, this is more than she could have imagined. And she's got Alexa to thank for that. And Alexa says when it's them against the world, they get results. Of course, the both of them have a match against Asuka and Kairi Sane, the Kabuki Warriors, for the Women's Tag Team Championships. And that's what we got. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus Asuka and Kairi Sane. Women's Tag Team match for the Women's Tag Team Championships. And match itself, it was okay. It was pretty much okay at best, in my opinion. It was back and forth between the both of them. Paige wasn't there tonight because I guess she was having neck surgery, so she wasn't able to be by Asuka and Kairi's side. But Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross win the match. You had Nikki Cross hit the swinging neck breaker to Kairi. She tagged in Alexa. Alexa went to the top, and she ended up hitting the Twisted Bliss onto Kairi Sane. Pin Alexa and Nikki, win the match, still retain the Women's Tag Team Championships. But overall, okay match. Then we had the main event, Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles. And before going into this match, I knew that there might be a fuck finish between, that happens at the end, where it might go to a disqualification. But the match, for the most part, it was entertaining between the both of them. Back and forth between Seth and Styles. Seth was still bandaged up. He was, still wrapped around. But I guess Seth Rollins ended up winning the match by disqualification, which, like I said, I knew it was going to possibly happen because Gallows and Anderson hit the ring, and Rollins ends up fighting back because Gallows, Anderson, and Styles were taking down Seth. Ricochet ends up coming out, making the save. He's throwing forearms. He did an enziguri, springboard, took out the OC. But Gallows and Anderson came back. Gallows ended up setting Ricochet up. And Anderson ended up hitting the Boot of Doom to Ricochet. So the OC went back to working on Seth. And Braun Strowman comes out. Braun Strowman ended up coming out. He rammed through Anderson because Anderson ran up the stage. Sorry about that, but I was saying Anderson ran up the ramp. Braun Strowman ended up run down. He rammed through Carl Anderson. And he ended up getting in the ring. He rammed through Gallows in the ring. And we saw Strowman then end up hitting a power slam to Styles. It was kind of a tilt-a-whirl power slam from Strowman to Styles. Then he ends up scooping up Styles. and ends up hitting the running power slam, also Styles. So Strowman then ends up getting out of the ring. He ends up handing the Universal Championship to Seth Rollins. And they end up both, shaking hands. They offer a handshake. And that was pretty much how Raw ended for tonight. So that was Raw tonight. And next week on Raw, we are getting, and I've been waiting for WWE to bring this back, for years. WWE is bringing back King of the Ring. And they are starting next week on Raw. Can't wait to see it. Hopefully WWE doesn't fuck it up. But how could you fuck up King of the Ring? The only thing I wish is that they would have brought it back as a pay-per-view. I know, they did the King of the Ring before, which it wasn't, like a pay-per-view like when they first brought back the King of the Ring. After it was gone for maybe 3 years, because I remember they started off in, I think it was 2005, and then they did one in 2006, somewhere around there. And I wish WWE would bring the King of the Ring back as a pay-per-view. But that's something to look forward to next week on Raw. The King of the Ring is being brought back. So I thank WWE for that. Because the King of the Ring was one of my favorites that WWE had, that they done, back then. So anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's Monday Night Raw. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. And definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And until next video, which will possibly be the SmackDown review. So until that video, I'll see you all later.